with a high purpose to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all. We approach this problem of reemployment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
Your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Your stuff can be a resource for change. Donate to Goodwill, where your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org.
It's the Wake Up Show with the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce on Chicago's essential storyteller, WVON.
Welcome to the Wake Up Show, Chicago.
Rise and shine. It's the Wake Up Show, where every sunrise is a call to action. Powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, we are the champions of change, advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the world of corporate and government contracting. It's not just a show, it's a movement. So get ready for another dynamic journey as we wake up the world to a new era of opportunities and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, President Larry Ivory.
Good morning. I think I'm live. There we go. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the Wake Up Show Chicago. I am so excited to be here today for the Wake Up Show Chicago so that you can make sure you follow us on social media. You can definitely go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe. All of these things are so important. But we are on WVON Live. That's right. WVON Live, so that you can find us on a regular basis. But I am so excited to be co-host to my dear and true mentor, Mr. Larry Ivory. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
I know. Before you get started, Larry, I am so sorry because we had we were getting ourselves wrapped up here. Okay, so that we can ramp up for this hour of power. But I want to make sure that everyone knows that we are being heard all around the world. This is not just on AM 1690. We are on iHeartRadio, heard all around the world. And before we dive into our discussion, I want to give the biggest shout out to one of our sponsors, and that's Wind Creek Casino Southland, for supporting the show and bringing important opportunities for us to spread the word and to support black businesses, I should say. This is an absolute treat. And I know that I was going to ask you what was going on over the weekend or how was your week, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you continue, Larry. But I just wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to our sponsors. Mhm. Mhm.
We played spades, Pictionary, Taboo. Just have a great time. And I told her, I said, unless we're going to have something, at least for a half an hour to talk about economics or something, then I'm going to uninvite myself to the family get together. And I'm going to see how well they take in that. I've gotten a couple texts. Some people like it. Some just simply haven't responded. But it's important for us to teach our kids as well as teach ourselves the power of money and how to make money grow and make sure that we understand those things that impact us. So I'm committed to that.
Yeah. So money has power. It's not just the power of spending it, right? It's money has its own power, and that's why today's conversation is so important because it's every Saturday that it's important. But with the recent executive orders, as you mentioned, it's making our heads spin. But with removing DEI programs, it's more than just political decisions. It's becoming a liability for businesses. So today we have a jam-packed hour of power. And we have a special guest in studio, Mr. Joseph Carr of Carr and Associates, here to talk about financial statements because those income statements and cash flow statements are critical, Larry.
But hey, don't forget the net worth statement.
Oh,
That
yep.
net worth statement is important too. So Joseph's going to break that down for us and help us to understand why those statements are important and maybe even tell us which one is the most important, if one is.
And we have tips for you to navigate and spot assets and liabilities in your own circle of people, not to mention our hot topics with Vincent Gilbert. Now, call us live at 773-591-1690 to share your thoughts, ask questions, or join in on the conversation. So stay tuned because we got a show with insights, strategies, and real talk that you won't want to miss. And it's time to wake up, Chicago. It really is. So, when we come back, we're going to talk to our special guest. But watch this, Larry. Don't we have the most exciting online Zoom meeting coming up on January 30th for membership benefits?
Oh, absolutely. On the 30th, we have a virtual membership uh, drive that we are inviting people to come on. If you're not a member, if you are a member, invite someone who's not a member to come on and just you get a chance to understand what is it that the chamber does and how the chamber can help you. And if ever there's a time for us to come together, it's now because LaDonna, you got all kinds of things happening in America right now where
Hmm.
companies are pulling back on the DEI, and if African Americans don't come together, they're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think people really understand the impact of that. But this membership drive that we're having, the virtual membership, this will allow for those that may feel like they are on an island by themselves. We will become their network. We will become their village, and that village of information, of business information, lobbying, access to capital. And I know people hear that oh so often, and they go, whatever, but no, serious access to capital and how to qualify in these muddy waters of what is being repealed and what is being updated on a daily basis when it comes to these executive orders. So you definitely want to register for the membership drive that's happening January 30th. It starts at 6:30 p.m. So those of you that still punch in and get off at 5, you got time to hop on with us at 6:30 p.m. in that central time. I'm going to drop the link in the show notes so that people can register so that we'll know to look for them on January 30th. And then we've got the February 7th event going on, Larry. At what? At Wind Creek
At
Casino.
Wind Creek, this will be our first event at Wind Creek Casino at 6:30 at the casino, and we're inviting everyone to come out, enjoy some hors d'oeuvres, and really get a chance to network and find some opportunities. So, if you can, even if you have something else to do, this may be more important in reference to the fact you may meet someone that can help you make some money.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we encourage you to come out to Wind Creek on the 6th of February to join us and have a great time and networking and make some great contacts.
I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. Well, as promised, we have a special in studio guest. And our special in studio guest, I want you to introduce him because for some reason you guys have this whole broski thing going on. where I mentioned Larry to Joseph and he lights up, and I mentioned Joseph to Larry and he lights up. So it would be befitting for Larry to introduce our special guest.
Well, hey, it is my esteemed pleasure to introduce the one and only, the mathematical genius, the guy who keeps you in order. And every business got to have a good accountant, and we got a good accountant. So I am proud to have my friend and my accountant who keeps us in line to make sure that we're okay. None other than Joseph Carr. So Joseph, man, glad to have you on the air with us, man. Nothing but love for you, man.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Larry. And thank you, LaDonna, for having me on today. And for everyone else out there, I would like to say Happy New Year since it is still January.
It
So,
is.
yeah, it's been a
Hey
lot
Joseph,
to go on in 2 weeks.
we're going to talk about today financial statements. And as LaDonna has mentioned, and I mentioned, you have your net worth, you have your income statement, you have your cash flow statement. And a lot of times people don't have a good handle on that. So I would like for you to unpack or explain or share. But let's start with the net worth statement and give us the definition, and then tell us why is a net worth statement so important, and give us some perspective. Then we're going to move right into the other two financial statements. So let's start with the net worth statement.
Sure. First of all, I want to say that I'm going to present the financial information from the perspective of for-profit business and a not-for-profit business, because sometimes people who are managing nonprofit organizations, they get lost in some of the business terms. So I want to make sure that I'm presenting it for both parties. Uh, a cash flow statement and a balance sheet and an income statement and your statement of equity, they have different terms if you're a non-for-profit, and that's like a statement of financial position, a statement of activities, what's your retained earnings statement, and then also another cash flow statement. So these are very common financial statements that almost every accountant is going to look at, especially if they're going to determine whether you're going to get a line of credit if you're a bank or a creditor, or if you're going to be applying for a grant. These are the primary statements that they look at. So the statement that you talked about, that statement of equity, for a for-profit business, that's the amount of money that you have left in the business after all of the bills are paid at the end of a period. So that period can be 1 month, it could be a quarter, and it could be a year. But it's whatever is left over at the end of that period that you either have money left over, which for a business is called a profit, for a nonprofit it's called a surplus, or if you don't have any money left over, that's either a deficit or a loss. So this is like some very basic information, but when people are applying for these different uh, packages, either in a grant or for a loan, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to understand, especially when you're starting off, what are these four basic statements?
Is it
Joseph,
Yes.
no, let me say this real quick, LaDonna.
Mhm.
Joseph, when we take a look, when you said profit, whether it be monthly, quarterly, or at the end of the year, how much does that impact your ability to go and access capital from the bank? If you have a negative, obviously this is basic. If you have a negative profitability, your chances of getting a loan, I would imagine, is greatly reduced. Or can you get a loan even if you are losing money?
Not on any consistent basis. The business cycle is exactly that, it's cyclical. So sometimes, especially if there's seasonality in your business, you're going to experience problems at a certain period of the year where you might not be running a profit. So you need to build into that budget, the fact that for that period of time, it's going to be, uh, a deficit. But when banks, and I spent what 10 years as a banker, what we looked at is what were you consistently doing in your business? And if there was seasonality, we built that in. But no one wants to see a business that's losing money unless you're the president of the United States.
Ouch.
Well,
This
hey,
term,
well,
this administration, let's be
Yeah.
we're doing,
specific.
hey, hey, we're
Only
doing
one
justice.
administration at a time.
So Joseph, when we say, so what can a person do and what should a person do? Okay, now you're saying that when we take a look at our profitability, at the end of a quarter, that speaks to when we talk about cash flow statements, uh, your income statement, your cash flow statement, and your net worth statement. Are those Are those three separate statements that we're talking about here, or do you combine them in all one statement? So give us some perspective on that.
Well, actually, when you're applying for a loan, the credit analyst is going to look at the entire picture. So you can't really judge one statement alone because they're so interconnected. And any accountant will tell you they'll be able to look at and find the information out of all four of those statements that you talked about to be able to get a really good and solid picture of what this business is doing and how this business is performing. So, you know, just the top level, we talked about retained earnings or owner's equity, but also that balance sheet, or for a nonprofit, a statement of financial position. And that's exactly what it is. It's a position that you have at a moment in time. So it is going to give you a snapshot of the money that you have in the bank, who you owe money to, and what money is coming in. And then it also includes the information from the retained earnings or the owner's equity statement as well. So you have your assets, which equal your liability plus your owner's equity on that balance sheet. But your income statement, that's for a period of time. So it's based on your activities. So it's based on the money that you have coming in, your inflows, and the money that you have going out, your outflows. So whatever you're bringing in is your revenue, and then how you're spending that money will determine whether you have a profit or surplus or a deficit or a loss at the end of each activity.
Now, I just want to hop in real quick for our listeners that are taking notes and or possibly saying, "Well, I don't have financial statements. I have a business. I know how much money is coming in. I'm sending out invoices. They're getting paid, and that's good enough for me." But what do you say to those companies or those businesses that don't entertain the idea of having financial statements because they think what they're doing is just fine?
I would say to them, it depends on if you don't want your business to grow. If you want your business to fail within the first 2 or 3 years, then yeah, that's a good strategy. Otherwise, no businessman is not, or woman is not going to know the position of their business. And you can't keep all of that in your head. Unless you were a mathematician that had everything that was in your head, there would be no way. You have to put that down on paper. And I suggest that, especially in today's technology, you can get an online accounting software package for like $30 a month. And if your business can't afford $35 a
You're
month,
already in
you're
trouble.
already in trouble. So.
I married into a grocery store business, and when I did, they kept absolutely no books. In
Mm.
fact, the cash register wasn't even printing out receipts. And of course, that looked really, really crazy to me because I had a technician or technical accounting background. So I helped accountants become better accountants by
Yeah.
giving them technical support in a software package like Sage.
Mm.
All right. So when I see this, it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
We ultimately got QuickBooks, and
Mhm.
no, they're not sponsoring this, not yet. But we ultimately got QuickBooks, and the financial challenges that were taking place in that store were actually put on paper when we ran those reports.
Mhm.
The owner, my then husband, ex-husband now, I love saying that, but he couldn't understand why he didn't have enough. The money's coming in, especially on the 1st and 15th, because remember, it's a grocery store.
Yeah.
But he did not have an idea of why this was. And I explained to him. When we ran those reports, it showed that income statement was completely off. His expenses were totally exceeding and busting at the seams. So he could not keep up with his expenses, the overhead, the licensing, and the fees that came along with having a grocery store, especially a Black grocery store.
Yeah.
So yeah, those financial reports are so important. That's why I wanted to bring that up, because someone may be listening to this saying, well, I'm sending out invoices and I'm getting paid. I'm good.
You know what? And that's unfortunately a lot of, especially um, younger younger people.
Mhm.
I was assisting a young lady a few years ago, and she had an online sales, and everything was going through like a consignment situation where, she was shipping only when the money was paid for, or the product was paid for. And she couldn't understand why she needed some type of accounting system to track the inventory, to track things. And if nothing else, I say to people who wanted to like write that off as too much work, or they just don't have the time for it. If you don't have the time to watch your money,
To man your store.
yeah, to man your store, then you
Mhm.
shouldn't own your own business, because there's so many problems that can come up and be alleviated if you're watching your activities every month. There should be no reason at the end of the year that anybody, whether you're a nonprofit manager, you own your business, or you're a company CEO for a $2 or $3 million company, there's no reason why you should know where you're at financially every month.
Was she sending finished goods?
Yes.
So those finished goods cost money.
Right. And she
You
was
have to
paying
pay-
out money.
Yeah. So she has to pay for the cost of goods.
Yep.
COGS, right? Cost of
Mhm.
goods. So she has to pay for
Freight
those goods.
and freight.
Yep. I was going
Mhm.
to say shipping, freight.
Yep.
She has to pay for that, and credit card fees, if
Yeah.
any, right?
Yeah.
And so she has that inventory sitting there, and she has to now ship it to her customers. So again, freight and shipping.
Mhm.
And what is she charging? Is her profit margin large enough
Right.
to sustain?
Yeah. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it took about a year for her to get caught up to realize that it was costing more money for her than to actually have a business that was profitable.
Well, we're going to tell you guys why the numbers don't lie when we come back after this break on the Wake Up Show Chicago. Here with LaDonna Raeh and, of course, Larry Ivory. And we have special in-studio guest, Joseph Carr with Carr & Associates.
Mhm.
We'll be back.
Are you ready to rise, to grow, to thrive? In Illinois, we got the resources to keep you alive. Join the chamber today and elevate your game. Together we'll succeed. Fuel that business flame. Join the movement, feel a business vibe with IOBCC.org. You'll always strive. Elevate your brand and take your place. The strongest community. We set the pace. Networking's the key. Doors open wide. Workshops and support will be by your side. From contracts to funding, let's make it a win. The Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce is where it begins. Visit IOBCC.org and make that bold start. Together we'll build businesses with hearts.
Come back. We got to come back, and welcome back to the Wake Up Show Chicago. Let me make sure that we have the right screen up here, because I want to make sure that everyone can